So a few days ago we had a large storm. So I walked down my stairs in the morning to find a soggy carpet at the bottom of the stairs. I had no idea what to do, and over the last few days I learned a lot of things, and I want to share with you guys some of those things that I learned. So Saturday night we had a historic rainstorm. We had a total of 14.5 inches of rain here in Wisconsin. That is higher than any recorded rainfall total ever. The highest, I think, other than that was about 11.6 inches back in 1946. So there wasn't a whole lot we could do. They forecasted about 1.5 inches of rain. So as far as I can tell, at some point in the middle of the night, I had about 1 inch of rain here in my basement. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but you'd be surprised what 1 inch of water can do to a basement. Many of my neighbors had 7 inches or more in their basement. And some of you may have seen my video where I installed an upgraded sump pump in my basement. Well, the sump pump did do a good job. It didn't fail, it kept pumping water, but I think the biggest culprit was this smaller diameter tube that pumps the water out. It just wasn't enough, just couldn't flow enough water. So I may eventually upgrade to some larger diameter tube. So in case we ever get, 16 inches of rain, maybe it'll be able to keep up. Probably not though. So what is the very first thing you need to do if you walk down your stairs and you find water in your basement? Safety is the priority. So make sure you turn off the power before stepping into your basement if possible. I mean, in this case, my breaker box is downstairs in the basement. Here's my breaker box. I did not do this. I was in full-on panic mode. I stepped right into the water with bare feet, got lucky. But my suggestion to you, first things first, turn off the power. This is especially important if you have any electrical appliances on the ground or electrical cords. Keep in mind that the water inside your basement is probably contaminated. So try not to walk around barefoot or clean things up without using gloves. Once you've made the area safe, the next thing you need to do is figure out where the water is coming from, if it's still coming in, and try to stop it or slow it down. Check your sump pump. Is it running? If not, why isn't it running? My neighbor across the street, his sump pump failed, and that was his main issue, which is just awful. A lot of times builders use kind of a cheap, underpowered sump pump. So if you're still using that same sump pump that the builder installed in your house, probably is underpowered, you may want to upgrade it, especially if you hear it run very often. Honestly, mine rarely ran before this storm. The next thing you'll want to do is go to your equipment room where you keep your furnace and your water heater. Check to make sure that the pilot lights are still on. If your pilot light is not on either of these devices, I would suggest turning off the power and turning off the gas and letting everything air out for a little bit before you try and relight the pilot. Safety first. The next thing I would recommend you do is go outside and check your gutters and drains. Maybe even the drain out in the street. Is there debris in those drains that's not allowing water to be pulled away from your home? Clear it out if possible, or call the city if you need to. If water is still flowing into your house when you wake up, that can be one of the scariest things ever, and you can feel pretty helpless. Do what you can with sandbags or extra sump pumps or replacing your sump pump or using a shop vac to try and suck up water as fast as you can. Just do whatever you can to try and keep flowing water out of the house. I've also heard people doing things like setting up hoses on their shop vac so they can just pump water directly out of the house, almost like a second sump pump. Once you've gotten to that point where you feel like, again, you're safe, your equipment is functional or not functional but safe, then you can move on to trying to get rid of the water. But like I said, be sure you stop the water from coming in first. That's priority over removing water that exists. When I did all of this, I had probably maybe 1/2 inch of water still everywhere in my basement. My basement is about 2,000 square feet. It's huge, and there was a lot of flooring and materials in here. And what I used was my handy dandy shop vac. Nothing fancy. That thing removed probably, 200 gallons of water. There it is right there. There's my savior. The other nice thing about shop vac is you can reverse the flow and turn it into a blower. In the beginning, I thought I could save some of my flooring, so I was sticking that shop vac under carpet and things like that to try and dry it out. So the faster you can remove any wet materials from your home and get the water out, the sooner you can get the humidity levels down in your home and you can dry it out. Ultimately, what you want is a relative humidity that's lower than 50%, which took a while for me to get to that point, but I'm now down to about 47. So once you've gotten as much water as you can removed, go to fans and dehumidifiers. Now, there's a good chance that a lot of your big box stores are gonna be out of these things. So rely on your friends, use whatever you have around. Try to get yourself as many dehumidifiers and fans as you can. I have about 7 running right now. Actually, not right now. I turned it off for this video so you guys could actually hear me. But I have about 7 fans and 3 big dehumidifiers. And they run 24/7. And then I also have my shop vac that is almost constantly drying something. In some cases, you can even drive to close cities that are maybe 30 minutes away, that are just outside of where the flooding happened, and find stuff that's still in stock. If the relative humidity is lower outside than it is inside, which it probably is, you can open up some windows or turn on your ventilator. At first, the humidity outside was actually pretty high after the big storm, but since it's gone down a lot, and now I'm running my ventilator a little bit, but I've gotten to a point now where my humidity is pretty low in here, so I've actually started to turn my ventilator time down per hour, so I can just focus on controlling humidity in this space. If you have central air or even window air conditioning units, that's another good way to get your humidity levels down. I have central air, so I crank down the AC to like 71 down here. Usually I don't even run it, and that did help kind of circulate the air and dry things up. Once you've gotten to a point where you're starting to dry things out, start focusing on documentation. It's important to document everything. Document the amount of hours you're working on this, document the money you're spending on things. All that will be important if you file an insurance claim. And another good tip, most insurance companies don't cover flood. And most people will use the term flood when they have water in their basement, but you should not. Because the minute you say the word flood, the insurance company believes that you had flood damage, and your insurance probably doesn't cover that. Now, if you had water 2 feet up the side of your house on the outside, yeah, that's a flood, and you're probably not going to be covered. Hopefully FEMA will help you out. I don't know, but unless you have water rolling over your sill plates and coming down the walls, it's not a flood. So don't say you had a flood in the insurance company, because they will probably not cover you. All right, so you've reached out to your insurance company, you've told them it wasn't a flood, you have started drying things out, your house is now safe. The next thing you need to do, if you haven't already started doing this, is to decide what else to tear out. By this point, hopefully you've already torn out your carpet. I actually had about 1,500 square feet of LVP in here. And I originally was gonna try and save it and not tear it out, because that's a crap load of work, frankly. And I just didn't wanna do it. I was like, yeah, maybe it's okay. If I get enough airflow in here and enough dehumidifiers, maybe I'll be all right. Well, I decided it would be a good idea to pull up a small section of flooring, and I quickly realized there was water trapped between the underlayment and the LVP pretty much everywhere. There was only a few spots that were actually still dry. There was more spots that were wet than dry. And after even a few days of me still pulling it out, I was still finding wet stuff underneath there. So it wasn't gonna dry out before mold started forming. So if you have LVP, at the very least, you're going to have to unclick it all, install new underlayment, and reinstall it. So what I did was I very carefully removed as much of my LVP as possible, just in case my insurance company wants me to try to reuse it, because in theory it is reusable. My adjuster is coming on Saturday, and I hope he just allows me to get all new vinyl plank, but regardless, I saved probably about 65 to 70% of it, which I think is pretty good. If you've ever worked with the LVP, you know that it's pretty likely that you're gonna break some of it as you pull it out. And yeah, underlayment is gonna be garbage, so I would just throw all that away. The drywall. So you're almost guaranteed to have to remove your baseboard. Most baseboards are made out of MDF, and it wicks up water like nobody's business. Again, I thought I could get away with not removing it because I thought I had so little water, but there was more water than I thought. And all it took was for me to remove 1 or 2 pieces that were visibly damaged to see how bad the baseboards actually were. They were pretty wet. I mean, they were soggy. They probably weighed twice what they did before they were wet. So I ended up just removing all of them to be safe. And that was actually before I removed the flooring, because I wanted to kind of let the edges of the floor breathe. That was when I was still trying to save the flooring. Honestly, once I gave up on the flooring, I felt a lot better about my situation. I could visibly see how wet the concrete was underneath my underlayment, and I never would have gotten everything dried out. If you have visible water on your drywall, you're probably gonna have to cut out at least a couple inches or maybe even a foot or two above that to make sure you've removed any wet drywall. Now, what I did, because it appeared that I didn't have almost any water on any of my drywall, I think my baseboards actually saved it, and I pulled the baseboards off so fast that it didn't really get a chance to transfer to the drywall. So what I did, in the areas that I could not see the back of the drywall, is I cut a little inspection patch out, like this. That way I could literally shine like a flashlight back there and check to see if anything looked wet or even just feel back there. And it felt really dry. So I believe I'm gonna be okay with my drywall at this point. I'm not planning to remove any of it, but I'm gonna keep a close eye on it. And I also do not plan to reinstall any baseboards for a while. I actually might have the flooring put in and then even wait another month after that before I put the baseboards back in. Or I might just wait a month or two before I have any flooring put back in, just to make sure everything is fully dried out. Then I mopped the entire floor with Lysol to disinfect. And then once that was dry, I used Concrobium mold control. It eliminates and prevents mold and mildew. I sprayed the entire concrete floor as well as about 12 inches up the drywall. And I kind of covered some of this before, but then the next step is to just continue monitoring your humidity levels in the basement and continue checking for any mold. As I said before, I'm down to like 47% relative humidity. I'm pretty good with that, but hopefully I can bring it down even lower, 45, maybe even low 40s. And I'm going to continually be checking for mold. I keep finding new areas that concern me. I thought the bathroom would be pretty dry, and so I thought maybe I could even save the flooring in that room. Well, I started pulling it out and it was just sogging wet underneath. Then I got to where the tub was and I realized I had to pull the tub out, and then I found mold underneath the tub. And it appeared to be brand new mold. It wasn't something that had been there for a while, but I'm really glad I ripped the tub out, because if I didn't, that mold would have been growing over the next few years and could have caused serious health problems. So I had cabinets, and one of the things I did was I bored some little portholes in the bottom of the cabinets. I'm probably not going to be able to save these cabinets, unfortunately. They do have some damage. I did stick my vacuum cleaner in those holes, and I ran it for about an hour on each side, and it really seemed to dry out the inside of those cabinets really well. Maybe they can be saved, maybe they can't. Most of the damage that is on those cabinets is not going to be visible, but I'm probably going to talk to the insurance company about it and see what they have to say. But that's a good tip with cabinets. Pull the kick plates off, bore some holes in the front where the kick plates were, stick a vacuum in there, put it on below, try and dry out underneath the cabinets the best you can. So what have I learned other than that? Well, make sure you have some sort of insurance coverage that will cover you in the event of a sump pump issue or a sewer backup, because a lot of people don't, or they don't have enough. Talk to your insurance guy about it. It's worth it. I never thought I'd need it, but guess what? Here I am. Also, upgraded systems. I give you quotes. Upgraded systems won't always save you. However, I will say that my upgraded sump pump probably did save my drywall. I probably would have had more like 4 inches of water down here instead of 1. So the upgraded system did help, but there were still some weaknesses that I learned about later. So maybe think about secondary pumps or water alerts. There's a lot of cheap devices that you can buy that just set on your floor and they'll go off when they detect water. That might have helped me if I would have heard that going off in the middle of the night. Not sure I would have heard it, but if I did, that could have been very helpful. Could have bought me a little bit of time. And start to think about drainage. Is there any way to improve your gutter system to get the water further away from your house or drain it away faster so they don't get overwhelmed? Think about your sump pump system. Do you need another sump pump? Do you need a better sump pump? Do you need a backup sump pump? Do you need a bigger pipe going out of the house so it can flow more water? How often does your sump pump run now? Is there anything you can do on the outside of your house to get the sump pump water to go further away? Can you put a longer tube on there so it doesn't just drain right back into the drain tile. What's the grade of your house look like? Is the grade near your house sunken? Could it be brought up a little bit? Once you feel you've gotten to a point where you've got everything under control, you no longer have any issues with your sump pump, your basement is dry, and you've confirmed that with moisture meters or putting a piece of test plastic on the floor, or your flooring companies came out and measured the moisture content of the floor, then you can start rebuilding. You can do some of that yourself if you want, or if you have good insurance like I do, you can pay somebody to do it. And that's kind of what I'm planning to do here. I saved a lot of money, I think, up front by ripping all this stuff out. And I'm hoping some of that money can go towards covering some of the things that maybe the insurance company doesn't want to cover. And maybe I can not break my back installing everything like I did the first time and focus more on making videos for you guys. So if I helped you guys out with this video, and if you're watching it, I probably did, then please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support me even further or help me fund fixing my basement, please become a channel member. There's a link down below. I also included a nice little checklist for this in the video description. So click down there if you guys want to see it. And I'll also put a link to my video about my upgraded sump pump. We'll see you guys in the next one.